Good day. This is Chuck Cameron for OCTV. The program is My Life. Today, I'm here in the council chamber with Kelsey Cooke. Kelsey, thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
Of course, my pleasure.
It's nice to meet you.
You as well.
I had not before. Like we spoke, we're always interested in finding out the things that help people become the folks they are today. And I'm delighted to know you a little bit now, and I'll get to know you a little bit more in the next half hour. But we start by saying, could you tell us your title, and then tell us what you're doing locally and for the job first, and then we'll start to talk about the earlier parts of your life and how the foundations were laid.
Sure. So my day job is I'm the manager and chief legal officer for the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, so part of Oakland County government proper. And then I'm also the Oxford Village Council president.
So you've got public service and sort of public service.
Right, yep, county and local government.
Outstanding.
Yep.
Double dipping.
Yep.
So you're into the big bucks now, I can tell.
Of course, yep, government service people, you know that.
I've heard of that. So you must have a heart to serve because you would find other things to do. That's a good thing. And I think we're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Let's take a step or 2 or 10 back a bit. We like to start out with figuring out how people got started. Tell us, if you would, about mom and dad and what was life like at home when you were little?
Sure. So I grew up, I was born in Sterling Heights, but quickly moved to Armada. My parents built a house there on 16 acres.
Oh, nice.
So my mom stayed at home for a while until she kind of went to work with my dad doing some office stuff. He did prototype injection molding, and so ran machines at the shop he worked for. So my sister, who's 2 years younger than I am, her name's Erin. We grew up mostly in Armada, and so,
Nice community.
yeah, great memories, just, playing outside all day long. We had a little creek that ran through the back of our property, and anytime it was dry, we would kind of make forts there, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it was pretty, I think, good and peaceful, and, just all around wholesome childhood, so.
What was dad like? What was mom like?
Sure. My mom was nurturing, but also, she always would say, don't feel sorry for yourself. And if you're doing your best, then that's good enough. So those two things influenced me a lot. My dad was, he's a teddy bear, but he's also, he's the enforcer. So if dad came up, my sister and I knew we better run, so.
I have some knowledge of that role.
Yeah, so super hardworking, of course, and yep.
Got it. You had one sister?
Yep.
Good. What was her name? What is her name?
Erin.
Erin. Still her name?
Yep.
She hasn't changed?
Nope, hasn't changed the
That's a
first
good
name.
How did you and Erin get along when you were young?
I think we got along well while we were young, and then the fighting probably began in our teenage years.
That's the first time I've ever heard that story.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Two teens not always agreeing.
Yep. Yep, and that kind of continued into our, very early 20s, but now we're like best friends.
Wonderful.
So, yep.
Pendulum swings back.
For sure.
So she's your little sister?
Right.
Okay. What kind of a little sister was she when she was little?
I think she was great in my opinion when we were little because she did whatever I said. So,
perfect.
I got to boss her around a little bit. But yeah, she's very caring. She always has been.
Nice.
And so, continued up into her life and career now. It's just, she's always been really super genuine, good sister, very loyal.
Sounds like a good people.
Yes.
Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
So I started out at Armada Public Schools for kindergarten, and then apparently my mom got called into the principal's office too many times, so she switched me to St. Augustine in Richmond. My sister and I went to Catholic school for a couple of years. And then my parents started their own business, and so we moved to the Romeo School District area. So Yep. And then I graduated from Romeo High School, and that's my, and then went to Michigan State and then law school at U of D.
Did you find Romeo then a bit like Oxford is now, kind of a small town?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. When you were in school, well, say Romeo, were there teachers there who either helped guide you in the right way or keep you from going up in the mud?
Yeah, I had a history teacher, Mr. Lamb, who I kind of looked up to. He was just one that, you could talk to outside of class about other issues, and he kind of kept an eye on my friend group. I was part of the good kids, I guess you would say. Never got in trouble. Did theater and stuff after school. But high school was not my favorite, so I didn't really have a lot of friends. I guess, got more social once I moved on to college and kind of figured out who I was a little bit more.
So, your Romeo school system, how did it compare to the second school and then the first school you went to? Mm-hmm. Were they different kind of school systems? Were they the same? More authority, more freedom?
Yeah, I mean, Romeo was pretty big, so, coming from a private school, going to public school was a big change. I switched in 5th grade, so a lot of social circles had already formed too, which was hard to switch at that age, I guess. But yeah, it was a good school. It was just, lots of people. So it was a transition for sure.
Got it.
And then my parents were working all the time when they hadn't been before, so it was, out to eat every single night. Right. It was, babysitters all summer, and things just changed a lot with them starting up their business. So,
what kind of business did they go?
So they opened a prototype injection molding company.
Right. Yep.
And so what my dad was doing before, he decided he could do on his own, and was really successful. He actually just sold the company last year, so ran it for a really long time.
Is he smiling?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
That hard work can eventually turn into a nice smile at the end. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah, everything they did really, I think, worked out well for them. And so it was just different for my sister and I. We really relied on each other. And my parents, it's not like they weren't there, but they were busy. So
sure. You got through high school, and you got into college. Where'd you go? Why did you go there?
Mm-hmm. So I went to Michigan State University.
I've heard that.
It was, it's the only school I applied to because that's where I wanted to go. And luckily I got in because I don't know what I would have done without any backup choices.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yep. Yeah, and it was amazing. I mean, MSU has the greatest campus and great programs, and so I loved it there. And
it's fun to walk around in the wintertime.
Yes.
With the snow blowing up your nose and your limbs freezing inside. It's a lovely place.
Yeah, I had a lot of 45-minute walks in the cold to whatever building I was, in at the time. So, yep.
Did you know when you entered what you wanted to study?
I did enter as pre-law, business administration pre-law. And that is just because I had this idea from kind of seeing my parents, lawyers with their business, that, hey, that looks cool. I'd love to wear a suit every day. Now, not so much. But so I did do that. Economics and accounting I struggled with, and so I switched to hospitality business because I knew that if you want to go to law school, you just have to have a bachelor's degree in something. It doesn't have to be pre-law necessarily. My counselor told me I wouldn't get into the Eli Broad School of Business, so I switched. And then right as I started taking classes, I got my acceptance letter into the Eli Broad College of Business. So I could have stayed, but I ended up graduating with a political science degree because I thought that would best serve me in the end, just kind of knowing government structure. And actually at the time did not know I would end up working for a local government. So it's kind of interesting looking back and ending on political science that helps. Yep.
So then where'd you go to grad school?
So I went to University of Detroit Mercy Law School, downtown Detroit. And also good experience. And, realized that I was good at that, good at reading and writing. And so, law school was, I don't want to say easy, but it definitely was like my thing. So I enjoyed it and I did well. And yeah.
If it fits, it's easier to work hard, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if it doesn't, it isn't. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Great way to put it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Law school. Rumor has it that it's a fairly rigorous world.
Mm-hmm.
Was it, when you got there, anything like what you thought it would be before you got there?
No. So yeah, it was very rigorous. Like you said, they say as a first year law student, you shouldn't work. And I had always worked. I'd worked since I was 12 years old. And so it was the first time in my life since I was really young where I didn't have a job my first year. And they're right. Like there's no way to be able to do both. Yeah. So, but after your first year, you kind of get the hang of it. And so then I was able to work and do externships and stuff after that. But the Socratic method, where you read legal textbooks and know that your teacher, professor can just randomly call on you, and that's how they teach the class, is just picking on people, to teach and to answer questions. And then the curve, of course. It's like, try all you want, but only 4 people are getting an A, just as many people are going to fail. Everybody else is in the middle.
Yeah.
So that was eye-opening.
That whole mathematics thing. Mm-hmm. Yep, the great bell curve.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're in law school. Are there professors there who are guiding you, giving you help, hope, daunting people who you'd rather leave the room instead of talk to? How did they affect you, if they did at all, to become something about who you are today?
Yeah. I had a real property professor who was really exceptional. She taught by telling stories, which really helped because it was a little bit different than just reading case after case. Like knowing how it applied in the real world was helpful. Yeah, and got me thinking about what I wanted to do. So I did really well in her class as well. Just I was able to follow her and really learn a lot. And then I was an intern for Judge Michael Hathaway out of the Third Circuit Court, the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. So he handled a lot of felony cases in the city of Detroit. And so I just spent a summer watching him and learned so much. And his attitude was just very blunt and to the point. And he didn't let people in his courtroom mess around, or, he ran it the way he wanted to run it. And I loved that. And so that really influenced me as well to just, and he had always good intentions. It's like, always tell the truth, have good intentions with what you're doing, and so that was a great summer for sure.
Did you ever think that next step, the world of being a judge, would be appealing to you?
I did. I was thinking about wanting to be a prosecutor. So I interned at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office as well, and I did preliminary exams out of 36th District Court in Detroit. So also very eye-opening. Yep.
It didn't remind you of Armada or Romeo at all, did it?
Nope, totally different world for sure. So I was on the moot court team. When I tried out, they told me, you argue like a prosecutor. And so that was kind of like, that was one of the best compliments I ever received. And so I also did law review, and so just loved writing. So, the writing and the oral advocacy is definitely something, judges, and so that was on my mind for sure.
Now, people hear about the law review, perhaps in a reference to somebody's credential. And many of us who haven't had the joy of law school don't know much about what that means. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So there are legal publications, and what the law review team at a school does is you write an article for submission to hopefully be published, but the larger job is called cite checking. And so the team of students who are on law review, we receive articles from other authors wanting to be published, and every single legal citation that they reference, we have to check that cite to be accurate. And at the time, there wasn't the electronic databases where people sit in front of a computer and do it. So I would have to go to libraries around the state of Michigan and find an exact copy of what the author was looking at, photocopy it, and check it to make sure that it was word for word the quote and that the citation was correct. So it sounds prestigious, but it's that's what it is.
It sounds exactly to me the opposite. It sounds like an enormous amount of work that they wouldn't give, I'm being a little conscious of your skills here, to somebody who wasn't really good at certain aspects.
Sure.
Looking at hard, finding the data, making sure that they had all this stuff right.
Right.
What did that prepare you to do? How did that help you in your real world?
Yeah. So just legal research in general and trying to find answers for myself. So if I can talk a little bit about my first job out of law school, I worked for a small law firm in downtown Northville, and the senior partner who I reported to, he was a great mentor because, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I would have questions and I knew he knew the answer. So I'd go into his office and be like, here's my question, but he wouldn't give me the answer. He would just point to the shelf and say, here are the books, you can find it. And I remember at the time thinking, it's so much easier if he would just tell me. He could tell me off the top of his head. But now, and it probably took me at least 10 years to realize that, like looking back, I'm like, it was important for me to figure it out. And that's part of being a lawyer, is being able to find the answers, like detective work. So it kind of goes back to the law review, you know, knowing where to look for the things. So
He was training you in a skill he just knew you would need to be good at.
right.
Despite the fact that you didn't want that at all.
Right.
Just tell me the answer. I have other things to do.
Yep.
Got it. All right. What was his name?
John Kelly.
John Kelly. That sounds like a good political name.
Yep.
Indeed. All right. So, rumor has it you got married and have yourself a family.
I do.
Tell me a bit about those. Tell me about your hubby. How'd you meet? And tell me about your kids, which is always a fun thing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband's name is Justin. And we met, I think he was like 22 years old. I was a little bit older, at a bar in Ferndale, just out with friends. We were both out with friends. And so we came across each other, and he ended up calling me like 2 weeks later. And then we went out on our first date, and so that was it. So no mutual friends or anything like that. It was kind of just, you hear the stories about two people meeting in a bar, and that was us. So.
What was it about Justin that seemed to get your attention? Clearly it got your attention.
Yeah, so the funny story is when we were there, I was with a friend of mine. We were watching the Michigan State basketball playoff game. And I said, I'm going to talk to the tallest guy in the room.
Bravo.
So we looked around, and he was, lucky him.
He was it?
He was it,
He
yep.
was it. That's a pretty good start.
Yep.
And I imagine he's still smiling.
Yep.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
So how about the kids?
Yep, so I have two children, Natalie and Quinn. Natalie is my daughter, she's 7. She's going to be 8 next month. And Quinn is my son, he's 4, about 4.5. And they're totally polar opposite personalities. My daughter's super sassy. I say she learned what I learned when I was in my late 30s. I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago. But she learned how to be stand up for herself and be super independent at 7, which I learned, decades later. And then my son is super sweet. He'll, Mom, can I go stand over there? Yes, you can. Thanks for letting me know. Yep. So they both go to Oxford schools. So.
Do they get along pretty well sometimes?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, my son will tell my daughter, like, I love you, Natalie. And then she'll be like, I love you, Quinn. So.
Are they in sports?
Natalie does gymnastics, and Quinn does Little Ninjas, so kind of the little boy version of gymnastics right now.
You folks get any chance to get away and do any vacationing?
Yeah, we try to go with my in-laws, so Justin's family. Every 2 years, we try to do a big family trip somewhere. So we just got back from the Dominican Republic about a month ago. So
it's probably better than on the other side of that island.
Yeah, I'd say.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, it sounds like you've got a great life as well as a great work life. Is that about right?
Absolutely.
How do you balance those?
I try to be very present with my kids when I'm home. They're in full-time school and daycare. They have been since they were 3 months old, both of them. And so even my daughter, she goes to school, but she goes to before care and after care. Yeah. So she's gone the same as my work hours, with my son too. So when we are together, we make the most of it for sure. Okay. And then my council meetings are once a month. And so my husband says, oh, that's your hobby. He does ice fishing, I do village council. So it works out well.
I tend to lean more on your husband's side.
Yeah.
Good. You said he's a fisherman.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Ice fishing only. Yep.
A purist.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. This is good.
Yep.
And does he do well?
He does. He tries. So he wishes the winters were a little more, stable as far as ice formation lately.
Tough few years.
Yeah. Yep.
A few hundred miles north, and he'd be in great shape.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. But it's tough to go up.
Right.
So you're in law. You got your first job was with John Kelly, who had an annoying habit of making you work for your supper.
Right.
That's hard and cruel. Where did you go from there as far as work, and why did you leave John Kelly and Company?
Sure. So I went to a company called Clear Rate Communications. I was given the opportunity to be general counsel. So I kind of was the first and only attorney they had ever hired in-house. And so I saw that as a pretty cool opportunity to do my own thing. And when I worked for John at Kelly & Kelly, because I was also the youngest associate and new, they let me do anything that walked in the door, right? So I got a ton of experience across a broad area of law. So it really helped get, with my next position. And I reported to the CFO there. And he also was another one where, looking back, I'm like, okay, because I would go into his office and report here, here's what we're dealing with. And he would always say, well, what's your recommendation?
Excellent.
And so after that first meeting of what's your recommendation, I have never been to a meeting since where I don't come with a recommendation. So
don't bring me a problem.
Yep.
Bring me some solutions.
Right. Yep. And as a young lawyer, those are things, you just have to learn on your own, I guess, suppose. People can tell you that, but when you experience it in real life and then look back on it. So, and then I'd always wanted to work for Oakland County. I just thought it was very prestigious to work for county government. Yep. So there was a random attorney position with the Water Resources Commissioner's Office, and I applied. And to this day, I'm so grateful that they saw something in me, because I came in there as an attorney and then have been promoted, I think, 4 times since then. So now I'm the chief legal officer.
You must be doing something right.
Yep. And they reward me with even more work. So, that's what happens.
Work, yeah. I think the good news is you're young.
Yep.
You get decades of more work getting to do.
True. Yep.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
So what's the work of the Water Resources Board? What do you do for them?
Sure.
And what do they do for us? Let's start with the second one.
Sure.
What does Water Resources do for us? Because we are all in beautiful Oxford.
Right.
We're on the water there. And then what do you do for them?
Sure. So the Water Resources Office manages about 20 different municipalities' water and sewer systems. Oxford Township's one of them. And so we do all of the operation and maintenance, basically act as their Department of Public Works, maintaining the system, doing capital improvement projects to make sure everybody can flush their toilets and they have healthy, clean water coming out of their faucets.
2 thumbs.
Yep, never want to take that for granted. We also handle all of the drainage issues across the county, so very important for all the heavy rains we have to make sure that the water goes away from your house and not into your home.
Bravo.
Yep, some soil erosion stuff and a lot of environmental policies and procedures and stuff like that. So we're kind of the ones where if you don't know about us, it's probably a good thing, because it means everything's working smoothly.
So then what do you do for them?
Yep. So my role, I manage, I think it's 5 different units within WRC. So I manage the legal team. There's 4 other lawyers who report up to me. Marketing communications team, human resources, our safety team, and our customer service team. So I have about 40 or plus folks who report up to me with some really good, direct supervisors as well who work with me. I also handle labor relations for the office, so I work with all of our union represented employees, and then policy stuff. So I'm in Lansing a lot, advocating for changes to certain laws or new laws. Worked a lot on water affordability lately, created a new water affordability program to help residents that don't typically qualify for assistance because their incomes are higher, but something happens in their life, some hardship, and they need help for a couple months. So things like that, which are pretty cool things to work on. Yep.
But when you're going through the list, my brain is going, this doesn't sound like a lawyer practicing law.
Yeah.
This sounds like a lawyer practicing management.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So it really has shifted a lot from, when I first started, it was all law, and now it's management.
Is that a good thing for you?
I I like it because I really like working with people. And then I stay on top of all the legal matters. And, if there's one that I want to work on, I work on it. And if there's ones that I would like to have other people work on, then that works great both
For
ways.
their development.
Yeah, of course.
That's good.
Yep.
Oh, so you're juggling, if I may, a lot of balls at Oakland County.
Yep.
So then we're sitting in the Village of Oxford Chamber's office. Why are we here? And what are you doing here?
Yeah, great question. So, Commissioner Jim Nash, who I work for at the county, obviously, he thought I should get involved in local government. He has just, he's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, influenced me a ton. He's just a very good person. And so he thought that I could be good in local government. So I think it was about 2018. There was a vacancy on council, and so I applied for it, and I came in and interviewed, and I wasn't selected, but the then village president said, I think you'd be great on the planning commission, just with the legal background and interpreting statutes and stuff like that. So I served on the planning commission for a year, and then another vacancy came up on council, and then I was appointed to council. So I kind of made the jump over. And then
Without being elected.
Right.
Very clever, by the way.
Yep. See how that works? And then there was another, and then the current president of the council left. And so then I was able to be appointed to his position, and then appointed by council to serve as president. And then I had to run for election this past election cycle. So I'm now officially elected, but was able to serve in an appointed position for a while, which was really nice.
Prove your chops without actually having to, it's a good way to start.
Absolutely.
So what does the council president here in Oxford do?
Yeah, so I run the council meetings, work closely with our village manager, clerk and treasurer. We have a very strong manager, clerk and treasurer for the village, so they really handle the day-to-day stuff. So.
They should.
Yep, and they do a fantastic job. So anytime they need me, I'm here. They don't need me very often. But our monthly meetings, I take the lead on those and make sure that all of council's voices are heard, make sure we have good, productive discussions, just make sure we're complying with, Open Meetings Act and things like that. So a little bit of my legal background helps and comes in handy with that aspect of council. But really just, listening to any residents' concerns or opinions. When people come in when they come in to speak under public comment, I usually never get out a timer like other municipalities. If someone takes the time to come, I will let them talk for mostly as long as they want to. So, but it's been good, and I really enjoy the people that I work with and the council members. We don't always agree, which is a good thing, but at the end of the day, we still walk out of the meeting having a lot of respect for each other, and so that's why I enjoy it.
How often does the council meet?
Once a month.
And what are the primary responsibilities of the council?
Sure. So we're the legislative body of the village, and so we are responsible for, making sure that our budget is in order and figuring out how we're going to spend the money that's entrusted to the village, to improve our roads, to make sure that we have good water and sewer systems.
And nice parking lots, by the way.
Yep, we finally had the parking lot redone. It was greatly needed, and our police chief really appreciates it. Yes. Yep, so local infrastructure, but yeah, I think that, and that's one of the reasons why I want to stay on council too, is because I do see the impact that it does have in local government. And with Oxford Village being such a small community too, it's like the things that the council members, that the people you elect to make decisions for, really are making decisions that could change how the town's run, so, yep.
Well, thank you for that. That's the finest fade out I could think of. You all hear that the president of our town council encourages you to come, sit, listen, and be a part of things, because it's good for all of us to be a part of things. So thank you so much for all of your work here, and taking some time to help us figure out a bit about your life. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to talk. So for Kelsey in this lovely chamber, I'm Chuck Cameron still, and I'm saying we hope you have a very good day. For Oak CTV, come back soon.